Shalom, my name is Yehoshua. I'm a didactic scientist, an American citizen, and I live in Jerusalem. And I want to talk a bit about the things that you could say and you can't say if you're not running for re-election. I'm an American citizen. I'm formerly Michael O'Donnell, and my parents go back to Massachusetts, also Mr. Cheney. I want to say some things that weigh very heavily on my mind. I've lived in Jerusalem for 22 years. And when I came here, it's important to know that as a didactic scientist, I'm the author of Humanomics, the trilogy for the post-collapse of the local reality. And what's the collapse of the local reality? It's a good question. The collapse of the local reality is what has brought the end of man and mankind's exile, and for secular people it means something somewhat different. It means the pre-modern, modern end of mammalian, the behavioral mammalian animal to the ascent of cognitive postmodern man. Okay, enough. That's the collapse of the local reality. The local reality was giving to receive. I give, I get. Everybody around the world, anthropologically, sociologically, psychologically, organized their life, their communities, their economies, their families, their life, their learning, their development, their behaviors, etc., around this model. It has collapsed. It's finished. It's over. Now, what replaces it in both East and West systems, it's collapsed. It began in 1991, and February 26th on the Kuwait-Iraq border with the driving of the Iraqi forces, the Republican Guard being driven out of Kuwait. It was completed in terms of the collapse of the local reality. It was particular to Iraq. It wasn't completed until March 17th, 2003. But anyway, it was repeated in the same year, 1991, December 25th, 1991. There was the collapse of the local reality, which was in the USSR, the former Soviet Union. Collapse of communism, that was its local reality, that collapsed. Next year in 1992 in Yugoslavia, its local reality collapsed, also communism. In 1995 with the murder of Rabin, Zionism collapsed here, that was its local reality. 9/11, the Twin Towers, capitalism collapsed. In Lebanon with Harari's murder. In 2003 with the final invasion of Iraq, the Ba'athist local reality collapsed. Okay, it's going around the world. Having said all of this, let me make some very clear statements to Mr. Cheney. He likes to make jokes and about he's not running. Well, I wrote President Bush. I wrote him, and I wrote the Department of Justice a number of letters, and as the author of Humanomics, its two paradigms are the new cognitive behavioral first principle of receiving to give, which is its central organizing principle, the new economic paradigm. The latter in particular is a very significant strategic intellectual property of the highest strategic import and value and significance to the United States. I came here in 1987 to Israel, and I encountered, shall we say, some very significant and aggressive activities and behaviors which I opposed. And the heat went up in the kitchen. Let's be specific. A 9-room house was sequestered. I sold my 9-room house in Scotch Plains, New Jersey, and put it all in a container and a lift and shipped it here. That was sequestered in the port of Haifa. I've never seen it since. I've never received my identity papers, so that I'm not allowed to work here. And the bottom line is called Isragate, and the underlying intellectual property for the new economic paradigm, which is my life's work, was to be grabbed, and I refused to cooperate. And I wrote and said, this is what's going on. And jerks, a president in short pants, a lush, who hasn't got the brains to cross the street, is being run around by his hand in short pants. Well, Dick Cheney is the president for the last 7 years. Well, he's like a parasite leading the group of parasites at Halliburton to suck massive profits, $15.3 billion in revenues, record revenues in 2007, $3.5 billion in profits. I think that's 22.87% net, about 46, 47% growth. Pretty good work if you can get it, Dick. So Tricky Dick, what's the bottom line? Iran interference. You Libby, Scooter Libby. I wrote and I said there's a problem in Israel, and there's an expatriate standing up against insurmountable odds. I was abandoned on the battlefield by you, Mr. Cheney. You're not my vice president. And the Scooter Libby, and so what did you clowns do? There was a re-election. You called in Tennant, and he got fired, and then you decided to stonewall and ignore it. You dispatched this pimsqueak punk Gonzalez over to DOJ to run interference as a rearguard action and scorch the earth if there were any complaints that would get into the system over at DOJ, which I did, of course. I did indeed write to and complain and ask for support. You're the most despicable lot of bastards I've ever come across in my life, an American citizen who has the morality and ethics to stand up to the vast corruption that was encountered here, and to protect American strategic interests, and you leave them to die wounded on the battlefield. You are a specious lot of stinking lousy bastards. The bottom line's, you call yourself the leaders of America. I condemn you roundly. Your president, your vice president, your Congress, your senators, your Department of Justice, your antitrust, your intellectual property, your laws. You're all a bunch of bloody phonies. Hundreds of letters are written, not one was answered. The problems have mounted. The murder, the attacks upon me and my family, stealing our property, our rights, and we're trampled under, and all requests, all calling out for help, brought absolutely nothing. Mr. Cheney, you can say anything you want because you aren't running for re-election, but you're going to have your day. Every dog has his day, just as Bush, leading America. 4,000 young lives were lost because of greedy dogs that wanted to make profits. You stupid imbecile. If you only knew, you thought that the protection of this great resource of oil, cheap oil, was sufficient cause, and this pretext of weapons of mass destruction. The fact of the matter is, the new economic paradigm, which I'm the author of, which was being stolen while you were helping the thieves to get it out the door. The bottom line is, Mr. Cheney, with that developed as world-class global technological infrastructure, you transform the problem of 24/7, 365, moving hundreds of millions of people. If you knew, developing that global technological infrastructure based upon the new economic paradigm model will take the American economy from 14 trillion to 45 to 50 trillion, and in a fundamentally transformed construct where the Iraqi oil is nearly almost insignificant, and you clowns, you've got blood on your hands. 4,000 kids are dead. I don't want to say more except that I have utter total contempt for you, for Washington, for your senators, for your congressmen. You're all a bunch of bloody phonies and a bunch of imbeciles. You can't think, you can't see, you can't get across the street without somebody holding your hand. Enough said. I'm Yehoshua, the author of Humanomics and its new economic paradigm.